Welcome to Storytime with Lori. This one is a little more personal, and honestly, it's been a long time coming because in this episode, I want to talk a little bit more about me, my feelings, my process, and what it took to actually get here. Because this podcast, it didn't just happen. I've been sitting on this idea for a while. And when I say a while, I mean I started it, stopped it, reworked it, questioned it probably 13 times. I've changed the name, the format, and the tone. I try to make sense of it, and I tried to make it perfect. I tried to make it something I thought it needed to be. But none of it felt right until recently. And what's interesting is it didn't come from more planning and it didn't come from more strategy. It came after my first podcast conversation with TJ Woodward. Something about that conversation unlocked it for me. It wasn't forced, it wasn't overthought, it just flowed. And after that, everything clicked. Not because I suddenly had all the answers, but because I finally understood the feeling I was chasing. It wasn't supposed to be perfect, it was supposed to be real. And this version finally feels like me because there's something special about starting something new, especially when something that's yours that brings up a different kind of fear. It's not just, will this work? It's, am I ready to be seen like this? Am I ready to share my thoughts, my experiences, my perspective in a way that's not filtered? Am I ready to be vulnerable in a space where I don't fully control how it's received? And that's real because this isn't just content. This is me. And when I think that's why it took me so long to finally hit go. But here's what I realized. At some point, you have to stop refining and start showing up because clarity doesn't always come before action. Sometimes it comes because of it. And the moment I allowed this to be just what it was, conversations, reflections, real moments, something shifted. It felt lighter. It felt energizing. It felt like something I actually wanted to come back to. And that's how I knew this is it. And more than anything, this has become a space I want to use to help people because we're all figuring things out. We're navigating growth. We're navigating change. We're all trying to become better personally, professionally, and as humans. And the truth is, we don't do that alone. The stronger we are individually, the stronger we are collectively. And the more honest we can be about what we're experiencing, the more we actually help each other grow. And this week in particular, I've been sitting in a different kind of growth. I've been thinking a lot about progress lately, not the highlight reel version, not the everything is working version, but the kind of progress that feels uncomfortable, the kind where you're making decisions that no one claps for, the kind where expansion actually feels quiet. Because no one really talks about that part. We talk about growth when it's exciting, when it's visible, and when we're winning, but not when it feels like loss. Because expansion isn't always about adding more. Sometimes it's about removing what no longer aligns. And that's easier said than done because removal requires honesty. And recently, I had to make one of those decisions. I stepped down from a leadership position in a women's organization I've been a part of. That wasn't easy. It wasn't something I took lightly. And I do want to say the many women involved built something really meaningful, and I'm genuinely grateful for the foundation. There are women in that group who have truly impacted my life in meaningful ways. But ultimately, it came down to alignment. And I've learned that when your values and space no longer match, you have a voice. You can stay and stay comfortable, or you can step away and stay aligned. I chose alignment. And I want to say this because it matters. Supporting women isn't always about agreeing. It isn't always about staying quiet to keep the peace. And it isn't about holding on to titles or positions at the expense of your integrity. Real support, real leadership is about accountability. It's about creating spaces that actually reflect the values we talk about. And sometimes it's about knowing when to walk away. At the same time, I've been thinking about what's happening in business right now, especially with AI, because things are changing fast. The playing field is leveling, and that's powerful. Because now almost anyone can access tools that make them faster, sharper, and more efficient. But here's the tension. Now, someone who deeply understands people is standing right next to someone who may not, but they know how to use AI really well. And on the surface, they could look the same. So yes, Adoption matters. You have to lean in. You have to learn. You have to stay curious and you have to evolve. But you can also stay conscious because something can be generated doesn't mean it's genuine. And this is where the real edge is. The people who win won't just be the ones who use AI, they will be the ones who stay human while using it because nothing replaces presence. Presence is listening, reading energy, feeling what is not being said, showing up for people because it matters, and people can feel the difference immediately. So, as I sit in this phase of growth, here's what I know. Evolution isn't loud. It's not always visible, but it's real. And sometimes it asks you to let go of things that no longer fit so you can step into something that finally does. So, as you walk into your next room, don't just ask, how do I show up? Ask, what do I stand for when I get there? Because at the end of the day, you can scale your tools, you can scale your output, but you cannot outsource who you are. And that is your real edge. Thanks for being here and spending this time with us. If something from today stayed with you, let it. That's where growth lives. This is Storytime with Lori. Real life, real laughs, real lessons. Until next time, keep becoming. See you next time.